host Ruth Karibin. In case you're new here, welcome. So I'm recording at around 10. Yeah, so good evening from Kenya. So today, why am I here? I'm here to just do some revision on a geography paper which was done by the Muranga Extra County School. It's called MEC. Yeah. Apart from that, just to give my highlight about what happened today. All right. So today, um, I woke up very early. Yeah, and was to supervise a Form 4 exam which is going on. I went. Yeah, by 6:20 I was in school, so 6:25 I was ready and I started distributing the papers. So the exam went on well and well and well. Yeah. Then my son woke up. Yeah, so I had taken him to sleep in the teacher's quarters. And since it was not yet 8 when they opened their daycare, so see, he came until where I was in class, invigilating. Tell me why the county director of quality assurance, the QASO, arrived, Mr. Gitonga. My son by then was feeding on some bread and tea. So when the gate opened, actually I thought it was our school director, perhaps coming in, because it's even the students who rushed to open, only to find a big car coming in, and my son was scared, so he rushed towards me. I was like, who is that? So in the process of trying to quiet him, calm him, because children actually fear some of weird sounds, meaning. So uh, then something hit me, actually struck my mind, and I was like, that could be the education officers, or whatever people call the school inspectors. So it happens here. He was the one. And I think for teachers, the greatest care is actually those inspectors. Just like for accountants, you find their what? Their scares are the auditors. So, there you start scrambling to have this lesson plan, the schemes of work, and those kind of things. Where maybe they look more, yeah, they look even on the general cleanness, yeah, and other things. So, I don't know if I was in their shoes as the quality assurance officers, how we take it, but I believe there's usually a great gap in how things are run in the education sector. There are those people who are lucky. They just finished maybe their degree and they got jobs in the Ministry of Education without having been class teachers. For these ones, they might not be able to understand a teacher. You're trying so much. So he came, he did his inspections. He came and found that some students were wearing these hats and some bandanas. Actually, they're not allowed because they're not school uniform. So he took them away. And I don't know how it happened that today I wanted the paper to finish, so I did not ask them to sweep before we start the exam. So I just told them, once you finish the exam, make sure your class is clean. I always emphasize on a clean environment, because how your general environment is will tell me about your brain. Are you ready to learn? Are you organized? And such kind of things. Yeah. In Kiswahili, we say some of the things that we use to know someone's characteristics ni mazingira alimo, jinsi anavyozungumza. Ukiangalia hata toni yake, unaweza pia kuangalia watu wengine wanamzungumzia nini na anasema nini hata kujihusu. So in the process, he came, he went to even the girls dormitory, he inspected, yeah, and he came with the feedback. So he had to share, and it happened that head teacher was there, so they gave their own remarks. which was not that satisfactory. But anyway, we move on, because being the second week, actually we are barely 7 days since school's open, so things are yet to normalize. So there was no room to explain to yourself, and I felt that was wrong to some point. um, as human beings, even when you have your juniors, you just don't give your remarks without getting to know their side of the story, or just, you're there, not giving them room to also explain themselves. Maybe to you, you might feel they are coming out as defensive, but I believe we need to also give people room, a chance, yeah, because they have also given you a platform to air your grievances, so also give them a platform to explain themselves. Prashik, hello. Which language are you typing in? Yeah. So that was it about today. Um, yeah, so we did the Kiswahili paper in the morning. Thereafter, there was that disruption of the school program to do minor cleaning. And where are you streaming from? From Kenya, Muranga County. Raha Kumar, hi, how are you? I'm good. What about you? Actually, thank you for asking. We rarely get those questions, like people asking you, how are you? Fast like that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for that love. I don't take it for granted. It helps us to be visible to many people. Tell us about your county. So I tell you about my county, my home county, or where I'm working currently. Do I have gloves? What are gloves? Okay, so Muranga County is a cold county. It borders other counties. It's one of the counties that are on the outskirts of Nairobi City. Hand gloves? No, it's not that cold here. There is no hand gloves. Yeah, it's just that I'm in a poorly lit room. That's why it's a bit dark. No, this is a sweater. And the rest is a concrete. Okay, so that was it about today, and I've finished my rant. So yeah, communication skills, condescending uh tone, just try have to be there, and we should avoid this idea of assigning blame to others, you know yeah. So that's all I learned for today. So perhaps you can go directly to the questions that were set. The first question for geography was, name two layers of discontinuity that are part of the interior structure of the Earth. So we have the Moho, and we also have the Gartenberg discontinuity. Second question, say three characteristics of the crust. So the characteristics, basically, you try to use adjectives. You can tell us about the thickness, what are the materials that are there. You can tell us about the capacity and everything else. So you say, in terms of the depth, it's between 16 to 24 kilometers thick. It's made up of rocks and soils. The dominant rocks are granite. It's composed of a series of plates which are constantly in motion. It's divided into Sile and Sima. My best student failed this question. I think he was overconfident, and I've been telling him to work on that. So he said that the crust is made up of rock layers which contain minerals like silicon. It's true because of the tile and Sima. Then it has very high temperatures due to overlying rock material. That was wrong, because that is a characteristic of the interior of the earth, the inner core. Yeah, it's above the outer core. That's not correct, because what is on top of the outer core is the inner mantle. Yeah. The next question, question 3. Identify two causes of earth movement. So we have volcanicity, we have earth earthquakes, we have convectional currents in the mantle, we have isostatic adjustment, and we have gravitative pressure. So I used to say vegete. So we have volcanicity, earthquakes, gravitative pressure, we have isostatic adjustment, and tectonic pressure. Give 3 effects of movements of tectonic plates. Tectonic plates, when they move, what is likely to happen? One, there will be downwarping and upwarping. So basically there is folding, there is faulting, which is the cracking of rock layers. We also have subduction. Sorry, someone was calling in, so I have to continue. So I was saying the effects of movement of the tectonic plates. It causes folding. Thus, it can cause folding features such as a fold mountain. Okay. It causes volcanicity and its related. So in such a case, you're likely to see things like volcanic mountain. It causes subduction, stroke oceanic trench. It leads to occurrence of earthquakes. It also causes faulting and its features such as the Rift Valley, the escarpments. So you get to mention that. The next question is differentiate between symmetrical and asymmetrical folds. So when you're told to differentiate or distinguish, the key word there is you use while or whereas because you're comparing. So for symmetrical, they tend to have even bends because there is equal exertion of equal pressure or forces which are exerted on both ends. Unlike asymmetrical, where you find we have an even. Sorry, it seems I'm on high demand today. Sorry, it seems I'm on high demand today. Okay, the next question is what is river rejuvenation? Oh, sorry, before that, state 3 ways in which folding influences formation and exploitation of minerals. Folding, we said, is the bending of the crustal rocks. So how does it influence the formation as well as exploitation of minerals? In terms of formation, it will cause the dynamic metamorphism. Thus, rocks are likely to change, especially now from being things like what can we call them? Yeah, they get to change. Let's say it was quartz, we get quartzite. If it was sandstone, it's likely to change because of the pressure that has been applied. In terms of exploitation, you can say how the folding can lead to cracking of the rocks. Actually, they get to break, so that will ease the extraction. You can also talk about how during the upwarping there'll be exposure of minerals that were below the earth's surface to be near the earth, so that will ease the exploitation. You can also talk about during downwarping, the materials that were on top will be buried down, so that will actually mean that exploitation of those minerals will be expensive. Another thing, what is river rejuvenation? Rejuvenation is basically to be renewed, to have more energy. So when you're talking about river rejuvenation, you'll tell us it's the renewal of a river's erosive power. They like testing on river rejuvenation. Either you distinguish river rejuvenation and river piracy, and they can decide to ask you the features formed due to river rejuvenation, like rejuvenation gorges. You can talk about waterfalls, snake points, um, abandoned meanders, river terraces. Yeah, so endeavor to be conversant with the river and its action. Next question was describe the formation of Telekitan. So you need to know that Telekitan is a crater lake. So how was it formed? So snow accumulates in a pre-existing depression on the mountainside and gets compacted, forming ice glacier. The hollow is enlarged by frost and thaw. That is to say that during the warm season, the water will melt and drop into those rock layers. Then during the cold season, the water will freeze thus exerting pressure on the walls of those country rocks, so they'll start to expand out. So what happens is that hollow will be enlarged. In terms of deepening, it's due to abrasion. You find we have rough surfaces due to the rock materials that have now been broken down. So the back wall of the hollow is deepened by plucking process to form a deep armchair depression known as a sac. So if it fills with water, it forms a tan. In this case, teleki tan. The next question was you study the map of Tampach, then you provide the answers to the following question. What is the height of the hill in grid square 8579? So you get to use the respective method of showing relief, like the spot heights. In this case, we found the answer as 1342 meters. So remember to use the SI units unless advised otherwise. So if you are advised maybe to write in kilometers, be sure to change. If it's in centimeters, be sure to change. Measure the length of the dry weather rod to the edge of the map of grade 8082. Give your answer in kilometers. Yeah, here they have specified. So what you basically do, you take your piece of paper, the edge, then you fold, then you measure. You can also refer to a video I did on how to do that, then you measure. You can use a piece of thread, you can decide to use a pair of dividers. It's up to you. Whatever you decide to use, ensure you are accurate. Okay, yeah. So whatever the answer you get, it was according to the marking scheme, it was 6 kilometers plus or negative 0.1 kilometers. So if you write 6 kilometers, 6.0 kilometers, you'll get. If someone else writes 5.9 kilometers, like my student, that is what you'll get. If you write 6.1 kilometers, you'll get. So there's that allowance for errors that is given, and you get your 2 marks. Simple marks. If you're not sure about paper 1, geography, ensure you do look through the map work, because you're sure the practical aspect will come. Another thing is give 2 methods used to represent relief in the map extract. You have not been asked methods to show relief on a map. Here they're so exact in the map extract. In this case, it was the map of Tambach. So what was used was the use of contours as well as the use of trigonometric stations. However, in other maps, you are likely to find things like rock outcrops. You can find we have the form lines. You can tell us we have spot heights, we have air photo principles. Do write that. The next question, apart from rivers, name 2 other hydrographic features found in the area covered by the map. When you see the word hydro, what comes to your mind is water. So here you're being told, apart from rivers, name 2 other hydrographic features found in the area covered by the map. The other catch is apart from. So you're not to mention the rivers. Yeah. So you mention other things which are hydrographic features and they're found on that particular map. So in this case, we had lakes, swamps, and boreholes. Any 2, the first 2 is what we will mark. So students avoid writing answers which are excess, just to save time for other questions. Yeah. Describe the characteristics of the long profile of River Kerio. In other words, you're being asked to describe the old stage of River Kerio that was on that map. So you can tell us, is River Kerio a permanent river or a seasonal river? So we found it was a permanent river because the water, which is shown usually indicated by the blue lines, was constant. It was not breaking, so we know it was a permanent river. Another thing is the River Kerio flows from the southern to northern part of the map. Then River Kerio has sand or mud deposits along its course. How do you tell that? You're likely to see maybe a sand quarry. You're also likely to see some mud flats. Okay. River Kerio has several tributaries. You can be specific to tell us the specific tributaries. yeah, that join River Kerio. Then it has many meanders. The river has a seasonal swamp in some sections, perhaps where it's flat. Uh, River Kerio has a floodplain along its course. The River Kerio is wide. Those were the points you have to mention. Any four that you use to describe, you get your marks. Describe distribution of natural vegetation in the area covered by the map. So here you're being tested on vegetation, where we know that vegetation refers to all plant community growing in a yep. So describe the natural vegetation in the area covered by the map. The forest, so you give us example of forest that you're seeing. The scrub vegetation in most parts of the area. We have papyrus reeds in the swamp near Lake Kamnarok, or it's Kamnarok. So the residents should tell us how to pronounce it. There are scattered trees in Kerio Valley. Then we have woodland vegetation near Kapchetumwa Forest. What did my student write? Okay, so according to him, I think he said the following. There is a forest in the southern western part of the area covered by the map. That is Kaptagat Forest. He said there are scrubs along Kerio Valley, correct. There is riverine trees at Kabarak. Yeah. So he did not give the total points to earn the total marks. He gave 3 instead of 4. The other question was using a vertical scale of 1 centimeter to represent 20 meters. Draw a cross section from grid reference 00780. So that was a 6 grid reference to 055780. Then on it you mark the dry weather road. Then there was the river. So here is how it's supposed to appear. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. Okay, so having seen that, we can look at another question, which is an application question. Citing evidence from the map, explain 3 reasons why cattle rearing is carried out in the northwestern part of the map. Extract. So here you have not been bound. You can give both human causes as well as the physical causes like climate, soils, whatever you are able to identify. In this case, you can say there's presence of scrub vegetation, thus there's natural pasture for the cattle. There's presence of rivers, which indicates there is presence of adequate water for cattle. The area has high altitude, so which is above 100 meters, which is providing the suitable conditions for cattle rearing. There are large tracts of land with few settlements, ensuring extensive areas for grazing. There is availability of transport, which as evidenced by the roads for movement of cattle as well as the cattle products like milk. Then there is dense settlements at Iten, Singore that provide market for the products. I really loved how my student positioned himself in answering that question. This is what he wrote. The area has a river that is Yate, which is likely to provide water for use by the animals, correct. The area has well-developed transport networks. This enables easy transportation of animal products like milk to the market, correct. The area has good number of settlements who are likely to provide market for the livestock products. The area is a highland and it's likely to have a suitable climate that favors the growth of pasture for use by livestock. You see how to phrase the question? Yeah. The next question was now these were the optional questions. Give 2 forms of precipitation that are common in the Kenyan highlands. If you don't know the types of precipitation, the formula is Dr. Mish. So we have dew, rainfall, we have mist, we have ice, we have snow, we have sleet, we have ice, we also have hoarfrost. Yeah. So on the Kenyan highlands, what we usually have is relief rainfall. We have fog and mist. We have snow, and then we have hail, which is usually accompanied by sandstorms. Then there was a table, yeah, as shown. So calculate the mean temperature of the station. So you go and see where we have the temperature. Yeah. So in January it's 21, February 20, March 20, April 20, March 15, June 13, July 12, August 13. Then we have September 15, October 16, November 18, December 20. So you total all those, divide by 12, you get the answer. So it was 16.92 degrees Celsius. The next question is, describe the characteristics of the climate experienced at the station. You don't guess, you use the values that are given there. Okay, like in this case, there is no dry month. The area receives high rainfall. Yeah. So we have some disturbance. Say hi. Yeah, so I have to leave it at this. We shall check later. Let me attend to this boy.